talk a little bit about for quite some time when we think about our city and economic development and growth. And so first, for those of you who haven't sort of captured the view behind us, I know for a lot of folks in Albuquerque, they still might not even know where Mesa del Sol is. The most iconic thing here that we all know about is the Isleta Pavilion, home to many concerts, and so most of us have been out here. But it might be in the cover of darkness, and you might not even know that there are actually now thousands of people living out here. And this is also home to, of course, Netflix's North American studio, which is doubling in size. So there's all sorts of things going on at Mesa del Sol, and so we want to take a moment to share with you a little bit about that. Now, first and foremost, to step back and think about our city. You know, I mean, I've been here more or less for 44 years, and born and raised here, of course, and there was a time when there was nothing out here. And one of the first pieces of legislation that I worked on when I was a state senator was a tax increment district for out here at Mesa del Sol. And the idea at the time was Albuquerque was booming, and we needed a place where the city could expand, but most importantly, where people could literally live and play and work. And in that era, this was a huge challenge where we saw all sorts of housing constraints throughout Rio Rancho, Los Lunas, and the metro area. And so the big answer, the amazing next generation growth opportunity in the future of our city was outlined is right here is Mesa del Sol. And then we know what happened. There was a real estate crash and all sorts of economic challenges, and people kind of forgot about Mesa del Sol. There were multiple ownership changes. And Mesa del Sol really has been sort of under people's radar, below the radar, until a couple of years ago. There's a new management team in place. They're not really new anymore, but they were a couple of years ago. And then our city started growing, and Mesa del Sol was ready. And so what is incredible is if you have not been out here to see the tremendous growth. We have still, of course, the amphitheater, but as I mentioned, this is now employing thousands of people across a couple of different industries, but Netflix being the big anchor tenant. And then we also know there's about 400 new houses that have come up. There's 300 new apartments, and this is in the context of where we were about 15 years ago in terms of a shortage. So the question is like, how does Albuquerque grow? Where does Albuquerque grow? The one area that is not sort of in the city proper, that is all set up and growing at an incredible pace, is Mesa del Sol. And so we're going to tell you a little bit more about this, but I want to emphasize a couple of other things. There's the UNM Film Department out here. There's CVF Laboratories. And of course, we're grateful for the economic development team at the city and at Mesa del Sol and at the state who continue to grow this area. And there's even enhanced infrastructure projects on the horizon, like better exits and so forth, that you'll no doubt hear more about. But I want to mention one other thing before I hand it over. People say, you know, is Albuquerque growing and where is Albuquerque growing? And I think you don't see it unless you drive out here. But we're just on the other side of the airport. It's actually very close to the city. A lot of people think it might be far out, but it's actually really not once you sort of realize it's just on the other side of the arroyo from the airport. And so for us, Mesa del Sol is the future of Albuquerque. And it is set up with a wonderful governance structure so that it's going to be mixed use, it's going to be environmentally friendly, and it is literally going to be the future of our city for generations to come. And it's starting now, and that's what a lot of people don't know about, and that's what we're sharing today. So with more on this, first let's start with our Deputy Director of Economic Development, Monica Mitchell. Monica?
Thank you, Mayor Keller. Support for local partnerships is so important for the growth of our economy. We are committed to providing the infrastructure these partnerships need in order to make this a thriving community. Improvements to infrastructure, including those of the Tijeras Arroyo Bridge, where an $8 million project was just recently completed, making Mesa del Sol more accessible to Albuquerqueños and businesses. It's only by listening to what our community and developers need to make these areas thrive can we provide the infrastructure and facilitate the growth and economic development that Albuquerque needs. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce you to the CEO of Mesa del Sol, Mr. Dave Campbell.
Good afternoon and welcome to Mesa Del Sol. We are so pleased to welcome you here and to show you, as the mayor said, what is the future of Albuquerque. Mesa Del Sol's master plan was developed in 2008, so it's been in place for quite some time. And as Mayor Keller said, it encourages us to have a place where you can live, work, play, create, and recreate all in the same area. And that's in fact what we are doing. As you look around Mesa del Sol, what you'll notice is that we have a number of single-family homes that are being built right now, about 400 that are under some form of construction. We also have an apartment complex, 314 persons, or 314 units in the apartment complex, as well as the commercial work that's being done on the Netflix campus. We just cut the ribbon on the new elementary school here, Mesa del Sol International School. So there are many things happening to create this community in Albuquerque that will help with not only creating jobs and allowing people to work here, but also being able to live near where you work. Imagine if you were moving here from Los Angeles and you have a 1.5 or 2 hour commute to get to your Netflix studio. Here, you have a 3-minute walk or a 5-minute bike ride if you're living in Mesa del Sol. So your life has improved, your quality of life has improved a great deal. We are so appreciative of the city of Albuquerque, of Mayor Keller, and the support we've received. This new bridge that was referred to that spans the Tijeras Arroyo is an important part of our infrastructure. Additionally, we will be building new interchanges along I-25 to bring people up to this area on Mesa del Sol Boulevard and also Bobby Foster Road. So the future is bright. We're looking forward to more and more in Mesa del Sol. And I want to focus also on something that Mayor Keller has made a key point, and that is on housing and development of housing, affordable housing, housing that's for workforce. We are in the process of building a housing facility here that will accommodate the many people who need housing in the Albuquerque area. So thank you, Mayor, for your support. We really appreciate all that you've been doing and that we're doing in partnership with Mesa del Sol. Thank you.
All right, so I think what we're going to do is we can take a couple of questions, but as you know, part of this was set up so that you get a little bit of a guided tour around Mesa del Sol, which I think Dave is going to be leading. But I would just wrap up with this. You know, this community was envisioned as a way to sort of counter generic sprawl and suburbanization. And credit to the folks who were part of this from day one, whether it's some of the people in this room like Dale and others, or the current ownership team with Steve Chavez. This really is the right way to grow. It's mixed use, it's sustainable, and it's providing a relief valve for the challenges we're facing in the core of the city. And as you know, in other events and so forth, we've spoken at length about what we're doing with respect to housing and things in the core. But we also want people to know that wonderfully, Albuquerque does have room to expand. And wonderfully, it's sort of set up to do that. Lastly, I also want to give credit to the State Land Office, which oddly has a very important role out here. And so they've done a great job helping steward this project as well. So with that, too, lastly, I would just say this. When Netflix came, it was almost 5 years ago, we said that it will literally transform Albuquerque. And we know this because we saw what happened when Intel came to Rio Rancho. It transformed Rio Rancho and transformed the metro area. And as long as Netflix continues to be as successful as they have been, this is what my kids are going to talk about. They're going to be like, wow, I'm visiting friends out at Mesa del Sol, and I'm going to this and that at Mesa del Sol. This is going to be the next example of how our city is growing in the metro area. And wonderfully, it's being done the right way. So with that, we'll take a few questions. If not, we've got a great tour lined up for you.
Questions? Quick question here. Dave mentioned bringing in another housing community. Are you able to touch on expand on that a little more? What that might look like?
Sure.
Or another, I think it was an apartment complex.
300
We,
units.
we have under construction coming out of the ground 314 units at the intersection of Bobby Foster and University. But we also have a number of folks who are very interested and who are making offers to us about land that will also be built in multifamily dwellings. So this is a place that, unlike many other places where we develop houses, where we only develop a certain kind of house in one area, this has a multiplicity of types of houses, types of homes, so that you'll have in a very close-knit area, single-family dwellings, large and small. You'll have apartments, you'll have townhomes, and you'll have affordable houses that are at all levels of affordability. So yes, we have a number of projects that are underway in some form of development. And once again, we've been assisted by a very cooperative city planning department and others who are helping us move along to accommodate those kinds of developments. Yeah.
Is there an anticipated date where families can start moving into those 400 houses that are under construction and the apartment building?
The apartment building is slated. The apartment building is slated for completion later this summer, in summer of '23, and the process of the 400 homes is iterative, so that at any given time you've got some that are in planning, some that are in development, some that are having their foundations laid, and others that are actually going skyward. So that's an ongoing process, and will go on for years as we move into the areas that there are. And let me say, it's not just houses. It's having services, having grocery stores, having coffee shops, brew pubs, dog groomers, all of that that are a community. Not to mention schools, and we're working collaboratively with the school district to make sure that at the same time we have houses for people to live in, we have schools for their children to be educated in. Sir?
Just with everything you just said, is there an estimate as far as like how many jobs would be created with all this?
Number of jobs created. Well, Monica, the economic development impact here is immense. Already, as the mayor said, we have several thousand jobs between Fidelity and Netflix and the other employers in the area. We expect tens of thousands of jobs in the Mesa del Sol area with full build-out. But let me caution you, that's not for tomorrow's headline. That's not a number that will happen immediately. It will take many years for this area to develop, and we expect that that's not an unreasonable assumption that we will have tens of thousands of jobs here. Thank you. Yes.
Question for me real quick. I know we already have Netflix here, and that's huge, but also I've seen on the mock video about having the United Stadium out here. I mean, having that, what would that do for this community that would be able to happen?
So if you didn't hear the question is, what about a United Stadium out here? We are very interested in having the United Stadium be located in Mesa del Sol, and we're having discussions with a number of different parties about how that might happen. I do want to point out that Bernalillo County has leased a great section of this area, almost 700 acres of land, on which there is a recreation park with over 30 soccer fields for youth soccer. Some of those are being used now, but they continue to expand those. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a place where we could host regional tournaments for soccer and have youth soccer here, as well as the professional soccer on the Mesa at the same time? So yes, that's a work in process. It's no secret. It's been reported in the paper that we are active in our pursuit of the United Stadium.
Dave and Monica will be on the tour too if you have other questions, but I think we can wrap up.
Anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see stadium-wise too. There's questions about Tingley and all sorts. So I think there's a generic need for stadiums in general, and so we'll just see where our community goes with that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
So Scott will get
Item 8C, AR 2022-119, 8D, AR 2022-120, and item 8E, AR 2022-121.
Thank you. Mr. Tafoya, I jumped the gun a little bit. You'll be at the end of these eights.
I'm sorry, say again?
You'll be at the end of these eights. We're starting off with 8A.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll be available.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. All right, 8A, the 56th Legislature, first session, 2023, capital outlay request to the state of New Mexico. Mr. Clay Campbell to present.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Clay Campbell, Chief of Staff to the County Manager, here to present our 2023 capital outlay resolution to the state of New Mexico for capital outlay funding projects. We have about 34 requests, new requests in total from all divisions and all project types, public safety, public works, as well as recreation. Those all add up to about $59 million worth of new requests that are collectively matched by approximately $89 million in previous capital outlay funding, general obligation bond funding, some federal grants, impact fees, as well as the general fund. So we always try to approach state legislators with our capital outlay requests with some money in our other hand as part of our new funding requests. And of course, horizontal and vertical construction costs have increased between 2 to 3 times since COVID has started. So we really tried to focus on those partially funded projects that could really benefit from supplemental state funding. This resolution also contains some requests that nonprofit organizations will be making with Bernalillo County support, and those are outlined in Section 4 of the resolution. Additionally, Section 5, we have many reauthorization requests. Many of these are just requests for extra time. Increased project costs, as I mentioned earlier, make it harder to reach the funding finish line oftentimes. So in these cases, more time is needed for some of those projects to secure the additional funding. I do have one minor floor amendment that was just confirmed yesterday in a meeting with Public Works and Commissioner Barboa. So item 1D, instead of being a to be determined amount, we'd like to make that for $400,000 and to also incorporate acquisition of real estate in the wording. I stand for any questions you may have about the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Any questions?
I'd like to move the amendment for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you call the vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner O'Malley?
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti?
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa?
Aye.
And Mr. Chair Benson?
Aye.
Thanks.
The vote passes. Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, you're up again. Economic Development.
Mr. Chair.
I think we have to pass I just moved the amendment. We have to pass, I moved
Oh,
to.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, it's okay.
Make the correction. So now is there a motion to move the vote? Thank you.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the vote again for the passing of this?
Commissioner O'Malley?
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti?
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, industrial revenue bond notice of intent for Sawmill Belma Properties, Chaco Residences.
And Mr. Chair, just to clarify for the record, the last item that we adopted was the notice of intent for the LIDA, and then the next 3 items will be for the IRBs associated with the project, just to be clear.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of an inducement resolution authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of Sawmill Belma Properties to construct, acquire, and install improvements, equipment, and other real estate personal property for Sawmill Chaco Residences as an extended stay hotel. I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Vice Chair, I think
Commissioner
for the public, I think it might, so there's always the question of, right, issuing the bonds, and of course, we're not responsible for paying them back. However, the other piece is looking at how they do get paid back. So I just want to make sure that that's what this is right now. These particular things are just about the amounts, right? And then I just want to know that the public is like, it looks like it is a lot of money, but it's not our responsibility to pay the bonds back.
Madam Chair and Commissioner O'Malley, correct. The amount is, Mr. Chair, sorry, is 63.5 million, and that IRB amount that the public sees is money that the Sawmill Belma Group will be financing, and through the IRB process, we're only providing certain tax exemption. The county is not responsible for paying these bonds or responsible for our credit is not at risk either.
Okay, thank you. Move approval.
Second. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner O'Malley?
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti?
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Vote passes. All right, industrial revenue bond notice of intent for Sawmill Belma Properties Sawmill Hotel Project. Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of an inducement resolution authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of Sawmill Belma Properties LLC to construct, acquire, and install improvements, equipment, and other real and personal property for Sawmill Hotel Project. I'll stand for any questions.
Vice Chair, move approval.
Second. Any other questions? All right, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner O'Malley?
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti?
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Industrial revenue bond notice of intent for Sawmill Belma Properties Sawmill Mixed Use Project. Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of an inducement resolution authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of Sawmill Belma Properties LLC to construct, acquire, and install improvements, equipment, and other real and personal property for the Sawmill mixed-use space. I'll stand for questions.
Chair, move approval.
I'll second. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Hold on. Yes, Commissioner.
I just want to say thank you, Marcos, and your team. I see that economic development is all over tonight's agenda. This is your night, Marcos. Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you, members of the Commission, for hearing all of our items.
Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Commissioner O'Malley?
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti?
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Vote passes. Thank you again, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you, Mr. Long and your team. All right, next item, 8E, back to the Planning and Development Services from the consent agenda. Property nuisance abatement, 1543 Bridge Southwest. Mr. DeFoya.
Good evening, Vice Chair Benson, Commissioners Luke Tafoya with the Planning and Development Services Department. May I share a photo?
Yes.
If you lift it all the way up. Yep.
This property has been under enforcement and, well, let me back up. A fire occurred back in March of like 2.5 years ago. And our staff has been working with the property owner ever since this occurred to try and get this resolved. And Ms. Starr has been great to deal with. They've cleaned up the property, they've boarded it up, and as our building staff have requested, get an analysis, an engineering analysis done on this structure because the roof is gone, and that's part of the support of the walls. And in that report, they are concerned about collapse. And I have other photos I can share, but this is current. And with, the revitalization effort on Bridge Boulevard, we're really trying to address properties such as this. It is, yes, somewhat secure, but with the structural integrity compromised, we really feel like this is a life safety issue that needs to be addressed. We have brought this through the nuisance abatement hearing. The nuisance abatement hearing officer actually gave this more time, an extra 2 months for the property owner to find resources or whatever it is to address this problem. And I am sympathetic that she intends to get this dealt with, but I am concerned with the ability to actually get it done. And like I said, we've been given this over 2.5 years. We actually, the property in the foreground, you can just see weeds. That is where the fire started. And we took this through the nuisance abatement hearing process, and this commission approved us to go through and abate that property. So that one's been cleaned. And we were just trying to work with this property owner over the last few years or a couple of years to get this addressed. And we're kind of at that point where, okay, we got to do something. And so that is where we're at now. And so if you all decide to provide more time, that is fine. We'll take direction from the commission. If you prefer to or decide to defer this for a month, we'll bring this back and see if you're ready at that time. I'll stand for questions.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Commissioner O'Malley asked first. Just a second, Commissioner Kutsata.
I'll go ahead and, since this is his district, I'll go ahead and let him speak first. That's fine.
All right, Commissioner Kutsata.
So, I think we're at the end of this road here, but I do want to be able to provide them with to see what they can come up with in the next 30 days. And at that point, we'll have to side with, with staff. So if they're still in the audience, I'm here, I work for you, but it has been a couple of years. And so eventually, we have to do what we need to do for that, what's best for the community. So with that being said, I want to be able to give you 30 days to see what you can do and what you can bring forward. because you're at the end of the road here. And so I'm hoping that at this point, things are going to change and that things are going to move forward. And if not, after 30 days, then I'm going to side with, what the staff has to do in order to, really look at how we're improving Bridge Boulevard. As you know, we're putting a lot of money into Bridge Boulevard. And, we're trying to turn around that community and give them bigger and better opportunities. And we want it to look like the rest of the city. We want it to look nice. We want to be inviting for new business opportunities and small business opportunities. So with that being said, I hope you understand that, I'm doing what I can, but I think that, I'm willing to give you 30 days. So I'm willing to do a 30-day referral if I could get support from the rest of the commission. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. These are very difficult decisions to make, and I've got a house now that's just down the block that's boarded up, and they're nuisances. They attract problems, people coming in and out. And especially in a neighborhood where you have other houses around, it's very, very, I consider it kind of dangerous too. It does cost, of course, to take a property down. I imagine that if the county would do it, is there a lien against a property when you do that? The cost of taking something down?
Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioner O'Malley, yes, there will be a lien placed on the property for the work done by the county.
Right, so quite frankly, sometimes that's a lot cheaper than going out and getting something yourself. But that said, this is Commissioner Quesada's district. If he's willing to give someone a few more days, that's fine, and I would support that. But I certainly understand the frustration of having a building like that could potentially be dangerous too. If somebody went in there, that could be you could get sued as a property owner. So you have to be very careful about that too. So thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. Commissioner Quesada, I'll second your motion unless Commissioner O'Malley, did you second the motion?
Oh, no, you can.
I don't think time is of the essence at this point. It's been 2.5 years, but I think enough time has passed that we do need to see something. So I will second the motion to delay this. And it was by 30 days, Commissioner Quesada? And
yes,
Mr. Takoya, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you call the vote?
Commissioner O'Malley.
Yes.
Commissioner Quesada.
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti.
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson.
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote passes. All right. County Manager, concurrence of the Bernalillo County Metropolitan Detention Center Jail Administrator Chief, Julie Morris-Baca, to present.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and Commissioners. I stand before you tonight to respectfully request your concurrence of Mr. Jason Jones's appointment to the next MDC Chief. As I've shared with you all along, we decided that we would do a nationwide search. We hired a very good consultant. We conducted interviews. We conducted second interviews. We also took the candidates on a tour of the MDC so they would get a really good idea of what they would be getting into. Asked a lot of questions, did extensive background checks, and I personally called every single reference. So I just want you all again to be reassured that I surrounded myself with some really good people while we were conducting the selection. Mr. Clay Campbell, my Chief of Staff, Daniel Robertson, who is one of our county attorneys, and former MDC Chief Greg Reese. So it wasn't a decision that I made on my own. I made sure to include you all as I was going along, asked questions, invited interviews, you all if you wanted to have an interview with Mr. Jones. So we went through that, and I want to thank Commissioner Piscotti and Madam Chair Barboa. They wanted to get to know him a little bit. I thought the discussion was good. They met with him virtually. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for that. I really appreciate it. And just to tell you a little bit about his history here, he has 27 years of varied and progressively responsible experience in the correctional field. He started off as a corrections officer and worked his way up to warden. So at least 10 years of experience as a warden facility administrator. I believe you've been the warden for 12, correct? Yes. You're a demonstrated leader who leads by example. When I called his references, things that I heard is he's hands-on, he goes to the back, he speaks to the inmates as well. He wants to make sure that they're doing okay. He communicates with the corrections officers. He's not afraid to go do cell checks. It's something that I think that we've all been looking for. We've met with the union today. We had a very good meeting with the union, and they are very supportive. They're on board. And I want to personally thank Ms. Rosanna Otero, who took the helm when after Chief Richardson left. And she did a very good job just keeping the operations going. We still had a lot of challenges, and we didn't skip a beat under her leadership. I do want to personally thank her publicly for all that she did, and she's still going to stick with us, thank goodness, and we'll be working with Mr. Jones as the administrative director there at the MDC. So again, like I say, he's got lots of experience. And just to let you know again, the concurrence of the MDC chief appointment, it's not required by the charter or the county code, but the two previous chiefs under my term as county manager, I brought before you because of references, just to kind of make sure that the references, because of references to an invalid resolution requiring concurrence, that was never codified. So for consistency and consideration, I'm respectfully asking for your concurrence this evening. And Mr. Jones is here to answer any questions, and I stand for any questions as well. Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam County Manager. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Sure. Commissioner Piscotti.
Oh, thank you.
And then followed by Commissioner O'Malley and Commissioner Barboa.
Great. Mr. Jones, it's good to see you again. The last time I saw you was
Yes,
on
ma'am.
Zoom. I'm going to ask you again, red or green?
Green.
Awesome.
I had it last night. It
You
was
got the
fantastic.
state question down. Thank you. My other question is, you've probably heard about the oversight board. And I know we talked a little bit about this. And can you talk a little bit again about your experience having oversight in a detention facility?
Well, it depends on what type of facility it is. Whether it's a contract monitor who's there to visually come in and out every day to see, or if it's not an on-site monitor, but per se an office who calls and checks in with you, wants to know about any issues, wants you to provide them information on any kind of serious incidents. Of course, you meet with them, you talk with them, you provide them what information they need. There's different forms, but yes, it's very common in corrections to have oversight.
Yeah, I seem to recall you saying that you believe strongly in transparency.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you're fine with oversight. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like some clarification on some things because so my understanding, Manager Marcus Baca, is that you offered the job to Mr. Jones. He is essentially hired. It's my understanding that he's moving in. And so this is a concern I have in terms of concurrence, right? It's not really required. And we do two things. We hire and fire the manager, or we hire and fire, that's our right, to the county attorney. Those are the two things that we're responsible for. And now it seems really odd that, that we get into this because it's already done. So I just feel very weird about that because it's not required. And I think that puts, first of all, as a commissioner, I am not interested in hiring and firing a chief. I'm not interested in doing that for a fire chief. I'm not interested in doing the MDC chief. There's no question that we're responsible for basically the financial health of the entire county in terms of like what our ability, if we get sued or whatever. But so let's just say we don't concur. And maybe Representative, I'm not Representative, maybe Ken, I keep calling you Representative, but you're not. That would be Ken Martinez. Maybe you could explain that a little bit, because what happens if someone's already been hired, we don't concur, so what does that mean?
Thank you, and that's a good question. I think the county manager is acting completely appropriately and transparently by placing this on the agenda for concurrence, because the prior